Of an artist you are, how many accolades.
I don't know how I did that. Okay, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, more than meets the third eye. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. And for those of you who missed it, I posted some uploads on the backup channel, so please be sure you check those out. And there's also a premiere starting at 5 o'clock. Okay? And so with that all being said, let's get into it. Hello, Gina. We the People is here. Jonah, Nessie X, Khalid is in the house. All right. Shout out to everyone in the chat, all of my Stardusters and moderators. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. This is going to be a brief live. But I wanted to talk to you all. I wanted to talk to you all about manipulators. Now, we've talked about manipulators before when I spoke about narcissists, okay? Because we know that narcissists also are very manipulative and so are pathological liars. Okay, so let's talk about it. I'm going to talk about some traits that that manipulators look for in their victims. Okay, there's 8 specific things that they look for that could make you a perfect victim. And this isn't just what I'm saying. This is actually according to psychologists. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, it's an important question to ponder that if we don't want to make ourselves a walking target, okay? If you know someone who may be manipulative, well, you don't want to leave yourself open to any of their tactics, all right? If you can avoid that. Now, so the one who seeks to abuse and manipulate is the only one at fault. It's never you, but they'll surely try to make you feel like you're the problem. And nobody wants to be taken advantage of, but that doesn't mean that we can't do things to protect ourselves, right? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And all of that starts with taking a closer look at manipulators, because they sit there and watch us and they look for traits. And the first thing they look for is a trusting nature. Someone who's always, easygoing, got their guard down, someone who's not paying attention. Now, me, I'm always suspicious, okay? I don't just trust people right away. You have to earn my trust. But some people are so trusting and they just think that that's something that you normally and naturally should do. But I think that's crazy. I have someone very close to me and they say they trust everybody until the person gives them a reason not to. Well, I do the opposite. I don't trust anyone until they give me a reason to do so. Okay, but that's just me. That's just me, honey. People are too shady these days. People are clearly nefarious and always up to mischief, some people. But so no, I don't just give trust away freely. You have to earn it, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, you have to earn it. I don't think any of us should be giving our trust away freely. at the end of the day. But so let's get into it. So some of us are deeply suspicious. That would be me. Okay. Perhaps even cynical when it comes to others. Now, that's no way to live, they say, according to research. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to stay suspicious. All right. Now, they say that research shows that skepticism and distrust can seriously impact our relationships. Here's the thing. I can agree with that to a degree, to some degree. But what I'm talking about is people that you just meet, people that you haven't known very long. Because here's what my grandmother always taught me. Now, I'm telling you what the psychologists say, but I'm also giving you my opinion on the subject. Because while I agree with some of the things they say, the bottom line is my grandmother always taught us that when you first meet a person, you don't know if that's the real them, if you're getting the authentic, original them version of themselves, the truth of who they are, because sometimes people send their representative to greet you. And that's the person that you see for about 6 months, 6 to 9 months. Okay. At the end of the day. And then after you let your guard down, then the real them shows up and they might not be who you thought they were. Okay. And that's all I'm saying. So yeah, I don't just trust people right away when I first meet them. Now, people that I've known for years, well, I have trust in them, the ones that are in my circle. And some people, I just trust them to be who they are and do what they do. If I know you're a liar, like DMX says, right? DMX said, if you're a liar, then I trust you to lie. If you're a thief, I trust you to steal. But that's what I do. I meet people where they are, okay? I don't expect them to be anything more than what they've already shown me. So let me continue. Now, the research shows that skepticism and distrust can seriously impact our relationships. Meanwhile, studies highlight a whole host of benefits that come along with a trusting nature, including higher intelligence, better health, and overall life satisfaction. Well, I guess that could be true, but here's the thing. Now, when we're talking about trust, I'm not talking about intimate relationships, because I wouldn't even want to be in a relationship with someone that I couldn't trust. If I have to be going through your phone, if I have to be checking your pockets, if I have to try to put a GPS or tracking devices on your car, if I need you to drop me your location and all the stuff, and I have to ask you 1,000 questions when you come back from wherever you went, no, I don't want to live like that. I definitely don't want to do that. But like I said, my trust, when I first meet people, yeah, I reserve that. I reserve the right to withhold any trust until I get to know you, until I see how you move and I absorb, and feel your energy. But let me continue. So, but as psychology today reminds us that you can also be too trusting. Certain people are unusually prone to trusting others when there are clear indications that they are untrustworthy. This is often attributed to personality traits such as high levels of agreeableness or openness. Unfortunately, being unquestionably trusting can mean the more likely you are to believe the lies and manipulation tactics used against you. Yeah. I mean, I always feel like you should err on the side of caution when you first meet people and you're getting to know them, because, hey, people are not always what they seem. The second thing is an empathetic heart. Okay, an empathetic and caring heart. Now, ultimately, manipulators get their claws into people by playing on their emotions. This is what they do. Okay, so it stands to reason that the more sensitive and kind and loving someone is, the more understanding someone is, the easier it is for them. They go and search for people who want to help others and who are willing to put themselves out there to do so. And mental health professional Jamie Cannon says the power of our emotions is the reason why it's the manipulator's preferred weapon against us. You see, they will use your emotions to manipulate you and to get you to bend to their will. Like, for example, do you know anyone? Have you ever had a relationship, whether a friendly relationship or intimate or whatever, or even a family member, someone who they would play on your emotions, like they would try to basically act like they're there for you, like they're so concerned about what you're going through, like they really care and they're concerned and they're a listening ear and shoulder to cry on and all of that. But then as soon as they get mad, they want to throw that stuff up in your face. Okay. Yeah. Manipulators. Or someone who, is mean spirited, nasty, quite frankly, just not a nice person overall. But then there's sometimes when they're really nice to you, over nice, okay, overly nice, doing, quite frankly, too much. Well, that's usually because you have something that they want or something they need you to do for them. It's always something. When a manipulative person who's usually mean-spirited is all of a sudden being so nice and friendly, okay? Please pay attention. Please pay attention. Now, being unguarded, okay? Being unguarded. Another thing that psychologists say is that the number one reason manipulators prey on your emotions is because that's the quickest and most efficient way to get what they want from you and to maintain that relationship for the long run. If an abuser is able to warm you over or worm you into their emotional patterns and influence them, then there is a much higher chance that you will react the way they want you to. You will be more likely to question yourself instead of them. You may eventually become accustomed to the self-doubt, which will make the game for them easier to run. Because that's all it's about, running game. That's what manipulators do. They run game. Please pay attention. Being unguarded. You see, vulnerability is vital in relationships. So, we've often been told by experts and people who are older than us, they remind us the deep and meaningful connections that we should rely on. In order to build and foster these, then you have to basically be vulnerable. Sometimes you have to be open and honest with things that you really wouldn't normally share, right? But don't forget there's a balance. Can't just be telling everything and all things, because manipulators will come back and use it against you later. Okay, and another thing about manipulators, they're very judgmental. Please pay attention. Now, how much we reveal of ourselves and our emotions should always be proportionate. Okay, getting to know someone takes time. This is why trust is built slowly. We learn whether someone can be relied upon and are honest through their consistent actions. Okay, in the meantime, we don't need to put up walls, but it does pay to be mindful of rushing in. Sometimes we, in fact, overshare. Now, some people fall victim to manipulation in romantic relationships because they're so desperate for the fairy tale lifestyle. Like that woman we were all talking about a few weeks ago. What was her name? Arisa Tisa? Yeah. They want their happily ever after and trying to shortcut it. But falling hard leaves them exposed whilst they keep on their rose-tinted glasses. Okay, so they don't see the reality of what's really happening. They've let their guard down because it feels so nice, but they get ripped apart and tripped up and ensnarled in these webs that these manipulators tend to throw out. Like I said, running game and telling lies clearly. And sometimes acts of love bombing that are later shown to be insincere, okay? Because sometimes people will just be all over you and acting like they just love you so much and doing all these things for you, but that's all part of the game that they're playing. And that happens very often. Being forgiving of mistakes. Now, giving people the benefit of the doubt is one thing, but it's quite another when we don't draw a line in the sand, okay? And sometimes people struggle to navigate the difference for years, okay? So basically, it's okay to be an understanding person. The more we seek to see the best in people, the more we can appreciate them. We can understand where they're coming from. And it's okay to forgive. And, some people say that forgiving is not for the person you're forgiving, but it's actually for you. But that just depends on how you look at it as far as I'm concerned. But that can create a slippery slope where we end up putting up with behaviors that we shouldn't. Okay, so here are some important things to think about, and so you can avoid being taken advantage of. First of all, forgiving is not the same as forgetting. Some people say, well, I can forgive you, but I won't forget you, and all of that. And I heard a pastor say one Sunday in church when I was a kid, he said, when people say I can forgive you, but I won't forget you, he said, if they can't forget it, then they didn't really forgive you. Well, I disagree with that. I think you can forgive someone. And the fact that you forgave them or forgive them, well, should have, give you a reason to sit back and pay attention to if they do it again. Because it's okay to forgive someone for something once, but I'm not going to keep forgiving you for the same thing that you do over and over and over. Okay, so I don't think we need to forget it. I think we can remember these things, make the person take ownership and accountability of it, forgive them and move past it, And then hopefully, if they apologize, which they should have if they were wrong, and if they apologize, then maybe they won't do it again. But if they do, trust me, I'm going to remember. Okay? Now we can understand and forgive a behavior and simultaneously remove someone from our lives. Forgiveness isn't a free pass to come back, especially when it's likely the same thing will happen all over again. See, some people are repeat offenders. They're going to keep doing the same thing. At the end of the day, this is why I told you yesterday, you have to set boundaries. Okay? If someone does something that offends you, call it out right then and there. That's what I do. Okay? Because if you do it again after that, now I just need to cut you off. All right? And the fifth thing is having shaky boundaries. Some of the traits on our list, such as being trusting, unguarded, and caring, are positive qualities that we understandably wouldn't want to ditch. At least we shouldn't. And we don't need to, as long as we have the backup to protect ourselves in the form of healthy boundaries. Okay, so there are some emotional things that we need to, have boundaries for. And there's some people who are just troublemakers, and we need to set boundaries for those types of people. Because here's the thing: some of these people will purposely antagonize you, provoke you, say things that they know are going to trigger you. They absolutely do it on purpose. And you can tell when someone has done something, intentionally, because sometimes we hurt people's feelings unintentionally when we're just saying things, just being honest. They may ask us something and then they say, well, be honest about it. And then you say something and now their feelings are hurt, but they asked you for the truth. Now, that wasn't intentional, but sometimes people purposely say things to hurt your feelings, to get you upset or to trigger you for their own reasons. It could be a myriad of reasons as to why they do it. But at the end of the day, they can usually tell when you're upset, okay? And when someone knows that you're upset, well, and they just continue going in and going on about whatever they're going in on you about, and they don't stop and pause and say, are you okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Did I offend you? They don't ask any of those questions. Well, they just don't care. And quite frankly, they likely said whatever they said or did whatever they did on purpose, just to get you upset, okay? So, another thing is they can play good cop and bad cop. That's what some of these people do. Okay. They can play good cop and bad cop. They can sit there and act like, they're down with you 1 minute and they're, sorry that they offended you in one breath. And then the next thing they're talking trash and say, well, I meant what I said, this and that. Well, if you meant it, well, why would you apologize? I have questions. That's why manipulators look for individuals who are unable to assert themselves and establish healthy boundaries. You see, manipulators don't want you to speak up for yourself, and they don't want you to call them out on their BS. That's what they don't want, because they want you to feel like you're the problem. The problem isn't them. And if you tell them that they're the problem or something they did was an issue, then they'll just turn it around on you and say, no, you're the problem. What about this? That's a manipulation tactic. And it's also the tactic of someone who doesn't want to take accountability, as I told you before. Okay, now a therapist by the name of Edwin Bly says that boundaries act as a set of guidelines that define how we expect to be treated and how we will treat others. They serve as a framework for healthy interactions and help protect you from manipulation, mistreatment, and toxic dynamics. This is all very true. And the next thing that they look for is someone who has low self-esteem. Please pay attention. That's X as I agree, Queen. Okay? Yeah. So they want you to have low self-esteem because, see, a person who's sure of themselves, a person who knows who they are and is comfortable with the skin that they're in, well, it's very hard to manipulate them because, for one, they tend to not care what other people think, okay, about them or about how they carry themselves. Sadly, manipulators sniff out people who they think will be most susceptible to their bullshit. Okay, that's often people with a poorer self-image. Pay attention. And if they know, these manipulators, if they know something about you that you have a complex about or something that you're a little insecure about or whatever, they'll bring that up. Oh, yeah. They'll absolutely bring that up and throw that right up in your face because that's what they do. Now, it's easier to take control over someone who is lacking in confidence and self-worth. Okay? It doesn't take much to create self-doubt within them so the manipulator can gain the upper hand. As author and life coach Darlene Ahmed points out, Controllers, abusers, and manipulative people don't question themselves. You see, they think that they're all that. They think that they're up on a pedestal and looking down at everyone else. They think that they're never the problem. It's always the other person that's the issue. And they act as though they're holier than thou. And that's why they can be so judgmental and so nasty, mean-spirited, manipulative, and all of these things. And it doesn't bother them because they think they're just perfect, even though no one actually is. But this is how they view themselves. Okay, at the end of the day, they'll quickly point out the flaws and shortcomings of others, but never admit to their own. That's what they don't do ever. All right, they don't ask themselves if the problem is them. That's what they don't do. You know, I've had to ask myself that before. They always say the problem is someone else. Honey, if you don't believe it, try calling them out on their BS next time they do something to you. Any manipulator, try calling them out on anything, and they'll quickly find something to throw up in your face and say, well, you did this, you did that. They will not address what they did. And if they do, they'll still come back and throw something on you because that's just deflection and gaslighting. That's manipulation tactics 101. Please pay attention. Okay? At the end of the day, this is what happens. All right? So with that all being said, they love to have the upper hand. And like I said, they find these people who have low self-worth, and then they just use them to their own advantage. Never asking themselves if they're the problem. How many of you once in the chat, okay, how many of you once in the chat have ever asked yourself if you're the problem? I've asked myself that before, especially if one or more people told me the same thing. Then I'd have to say, wait a minute, maybe I'm the issue here. Maybe it's me. DJ says, why are they trying to solve a problem when they are the problem? I heard that, DJ, okay? A lot of people putting ones in the chat. Yes, because here's the thing. Sometimes you have to own your own BS. And see, I can do that. Because here's the thing. I am very brash when I speak to people sometimes. Sometimes I have not always exercised tact. Sometimes I tell people something, you know, I may be telling them something that they need to do or something they're doing wrong or whatever. And in my mind, I'm actually trying to help them to do better. So I'm telling them about the things they're messing up on, but I may not say it all nice and sweet. I may not, you know, dip it in honey and sprinkle sugar on it before I say it. Because in other words, I don't sugarcoat stuff. I just say it how it is. And so sometimes I may come off as rude. Sometimes, and quite frankly, I'm not coming off as rude. I just am being rude. That's something that I'm working on. But at the end of the day, if numerous people are telling you something about yourself, DJ said, I was just having this discussion. Okay, great. Alice said, just yesterday with a friend. Exactly. Desmond said, so nefarious. I know I can be nefarious. I have to admit it. Okay? DJ said, people don't want to hear the truth. No, some people don't. Some people don't want to hear the truth about themselves. Now, me, you can always tell me the truth about myself, because if I take a look and self-reflect and realize that what you're saying is in fact true of myself, then I'll apologize, try to do better, and move forward. That's what you do. Okay? DJ said abrasive. Ouch. Yes. Absolutely. I can be that way. That's just a trait that I have. You know, maybe it's because I'm a Pisces. Maybe it's because the person that raised me was that way. But nonetheless, that's something that I work on. Okay? Because like I said, Gina said, me either, Queen. Okay? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to offend anyone unintentionally, and I don't want to make anyone feel bad about themselves or make them feel like I'm talking down to them. And I definitely don't want to be rude, at least not to people that I care about. So sometimes we have to self-reflect and try to check our own selves. But in order to do these things, you have to be willing to hold yourself accountable. You have to be willing to self-reflect and take a look at yourself and say, you know what? Man, maybe it's me. I mean, everybody can't be lying, right? Now, if 1, 2, and 3 people tell you the same thing about yourself, it's more likely than not that they're not making this up. So, but some people don't want to hear it, no matter how many people tell them something about themselves. That's all I'm saying. Please pay attention. Specifically, manipulators and narcissists and pathological liars. I mean, it's always everyone else and never them. Now, the 7th thing is a desire to please. Remember, we've talked about this before. People pleasers. You see, whenever we have a need for approval, it puts us at the mercy of others. And see, that's why I never have a need for approval. I don't care what somebody's thinking about the queen. I've told you all a myriad of times that whatever somebody thinks about me is none of my business. Okay? And some people may go to great lengths to please others, even at their own expense. Manipulators use this fear of rejection to control and coerce their victims. Now, if you look for the bulk of your validation outside of yourself, chances are that you also have people-pleasing tendencies. Okay? Now, I can be a nice person, just as nice as anybody, but I'm not out here trying to people please. I'm not going to kiss your butt. I'm not going to lick your boots. I'm not going to go above and beyond to make you feel a certain type of way, while you sit there and make me feel like crap. Okay? That's what I'm not going to do. It can be equal footing. You meet me halfway, I'll meet you halfway. And that goes for friendships or into an intimate relationship. At the end of the day, I'm just saying I'm not going to be doing the most and you're not doing anything. That's how that works. Now, there are plenty of ways the people pleasing tends to backfire. Okay, and one of which is exposing yourself to manipulation. Not only that, some experts argue that people pleasing in itself could be considered a form of manipulation. So if you're out here trying to do too much and being too nice, you might be manipulating somebody yourself. And maybe you don't even realize it, because here's the thing. Some people are manipulative and don't even realize it. It's called energetically manipulating, okay? Energetically manipulating. They don't even realize they're doing it. All right, so please pay attention. That's why you have to guard your energy and mind who you give your energy to. Now, the eighth thing is a history of abuse and manipulation. You see, sometimes the victim and perpetrator roles come so effortlessly because they are so well practiced. For example, research has highlighted how trauma survivors are more likely to be at risk for future abuse. As strange as it may sound, subconsciously we seek our familiarity even when it's not a positive experience, because we recognize it. In some ways, it makes us feel safe because we know what to expect. Social worker and trauma-informed psychotherapist Joanna Iwana Podkanska said that it turns into a habit. You see, she says, we tend to remain in patterns that are familiar to us. We often do not realize that the relationships we're in are abusive, especially if we grow up in dysfunctional families. It's not easy to break free of toxic cycles. However, experts say that learning to see how past experiences can start to normalize negative behavior will help you spot the warning signs. So pay attention. Negative past experiences and trauma can normalize negative behavior. So you know what that means? That means that if you've been through trauma, there is a chance, a likelihood that you may have negative aspects of your personality that seem normal to you that you don't even realize. With me, it's my rudeness in some cases. Please pay attention. Okay, and like I said, the only reason I noticed it is because a couple of people mentioned it to me. All right, that's all I'm saying. Now, standing up to manipulation means first recognizing it. All right, and you know what they say: knowledge is, after all, power. Okay, so you should be on the lookout for the tricks and the tactics used by manipulators. Now, these are the things they look for. But now, let's talk about how we can spot some of their tactics. Traits of manipulators. Let's talk about that. Everyone, please get those likes up. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, experts reveal 5 key traits of manipulators and how to stop them. And so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Manipulators are cunning and clever. Okay, they often have a good understanding of human psychology, allowing them to coerce you into doing what they want through any means necessary. And now, to be on guard against this, you must first understand the traits of a manipulator. Being tricked by a manipulator can be significantly harmful to you. So you need to learn how to spot a manipulator and defend yourself against them. And so here's 5 key traits that experts say manipulators have. 5 primary traits. Okay, so do you feel someone is trying to pull one over on you? Well, here's what you should know. First thing is, they make unreasonable requests or offers presented as reasonable ones. Manipulators often try to use the people around them as tools to achieve their goals. They might make all sorts of offers to you that are just ways of them disguising their true motive. Their requests will usually be very unreasonable on paper, but will be presented to you so that they sound completely valid. I just want y'all to pay attention. Does anyone know someone like this? Another thing that they do is they'll act as though they're giving you options, but they present it to you as though they're giving you options, but they've really already made a choice. And then anything that you do or say about it outside of being happy, well, then they'll say, oh, you're just doing too much. You're being overly sensitive. Oh, you're just taking this the wrong way. These are the things they'll literally tell you. Okay? Don't fall for it. They'll try to invalidate your feelings by making you feel like you're doing too much or you're just being overly dramatic. Okay? At the end of the day, oh, you're taking things the wrong way. You're taking it out of context. These are the things they'll tell you. Please pay attention. Now, some manipulators might be very transparent and obvious when they do this, as they lack the self-awareness necessary to realize that what they're asking you for is ridiculous, okay? But the manipulators you have to worry about are aware that what they're asking for is too much. Those are the main ones to watch for. They might even make their desires sound so reasonable that you'd feel bad for declining it. That's another thing. Yeah, they want to make you, they want to guilt trip you into going along with it. Make you feel like you're crazy, you're being unreasonable, okay, like there's something wrong with you. This is a common trick among manipulators. They seek to get something positive in return for deceiving those around them. Regardless of the traits of the manipulator you're dealing with, author, professional private coach, and communications expert Preston Nye recommends turning the focus back on them using probing questions. It can make the manipulator in question suddenly be very aware of the disproportion of their request. Let me give you an example. You know what I do when they say turn the question back around on them. So let me give you an example of how I do that. See, what I don't do ever is I don't let people close me. Okay? I don't let people close me. And by that I mean this. Aboriginal woman said, oh, you're just being a hater. Yeah, that's what they'll tell you. Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about when I say that. So, have you ever had someone who asks you something that's kind of open-ended, right? They'll say something like, what are you doing Saturday? Now, you don't know why they're asking what you're doing Saturday, but they're asking you because they want to get you to do something for them that they know you probably aren't going to want to do, like maybe help them move. And so then they'll say, what are your plans for Saturday? And then you unwittingly, not knowing what they're up to, because I know you don't want to help anybody move, because I don't. That's one thing I hate to do. And I can be your friend all day long, but what I'm not going to do ever is help you move. If you need to move, I will pay somebody to help move you, but I'm not going to help you move. That's all I'm saying. I don't even move my own stuff. So anyway, with that all being said, manipulators are so cunning and sly, says Terry Henn. Absolutely. Okay, songwriter Sunny says, I need to borrow your car right quick. Yeah, that's a good one, right? All right, Aboriginal woman says, my first question is, why are you asking? Yes. So here's the thing. That's exactly what I say. Yeah, what are your plans for Saturday? I don't know. What do you want? What do you need? Or they'll call you and say, where you at? Why? What's going on? That's what I say. Why? What's going on? First of all, I'm not going to tell you my location. Unless you're my man or somebody, okay? One of my sons. But other than that, what do you need to know where I'm at for? Right? What you doing later? Why? What's going on? That's what you're going to get from me. I'm not going to say, oh, nothing. Oh, good. So can you come help me pack up all this stuff? Because I'm going to be moving this weekend. No, that's not going to work on me. That's not going to work on me, okay? Alice says, my grandkids to babysit. Yeah, that's what they'll do. Oh, you already know, right? If they want you to babysit. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, nothing. Great. I'm going to drop the kids off. No, you won't. All right. Also nefarious. Terry said, thanks, Queen. Okay. Susan said, or you got $1? Okay. All nefarious. But let me continue. Now, here are some of the examples of questions to use when you probe them and turn it back around on them by questioning them. Say, do I have any say in this? Do you think that sounds reasonable? Does this seem fair to you? Are you really expecting me to do this? I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous request. Are you asking or telling me? What exactly do I get out of this? Ask them that and see what they do then. And let me give you an example of something that happened to me one time when I was at this job one day, right? So I was working at this job one time. DJ said, I'm an expert with these folks. 2024 is the year of change. I know that's right, honey. So let me tell you, I was working this job when I was in college, and I told you all about when I was doing security before. So there was a guy who worked with me, and he wanted me to switch shifts with him. He had something to do. I don't remember what it was, but nonetheless, he came up to me and he said, hey, listen, I need you to work for me on Thursday and come in at 3:00. And then so I'll come in for you on Friday at 7 a.m. Now, he didn't ask me. That didn't sound like a question. That sounded like a request, or not even a request. That sounded like a demand. Yeah, I'm going to need you to work for me on Thursday and come in at 3, and then I'll come in for you Friday at 7 a.m. What? First of all, sir, I said, are you asking me or telling me? Because I didn't say I wanted to work for you on Thursday. And he was like, well, I was just wondering if you could do it. Okay, then ask me. Don't tell me at the end of the day. And so, I told him I wasn't going to do it. And now maybe if he'd asked in the correct way in the first place, I could have done it. But no, I didn't like the way you brought it to me. So no, I'm not going to do it. And then when I spoke to my boss, I was telling my boss about it because I was like, the nerve of him. He's going to come and tell me like I have to do it. Like he's the boss. I said, he was literally talking to me like he's the boss. And you know what my boss told me? He said, yeah. He said, see, people like him, what they do to people who look like me is they talk to you like they're in charge, even when they're not, because they feel like they have the entitlement. Okay, they feel entitled to talk to you as though they're authoritative over you, even though they're absolutely not. Please pay attention. Terry Hinn said, I love Queen's story time. Thank you, beloved. Now, I find it also nefarious, but needless to say, like I told you, I didn't work for him. Please. Now, these types of questions force a manipulator to look at themselves in a metaphorical mirror to realize how disproportionate these requests are. It's enough for most of them to back down. Okay? I'm going to tell you something else manipulators do. When you're sitting down, if they really want you to do something, they use like this intimidation tactic. It's almost something reminiscent of a police officer during an interrogation. Because what they'll do is they'll ask you something that they know that you likely don't really want to do. But when they ask you, they'll see you may be in a comfortable seated position, and then they'll walk over to you and stand over you. Now, this usually happens in the workplace environment, not necessarily with someone who's close to you, but usually in a workplace environment. Why does that happen? Because that's an intimidation tactic. It kind of makes you feel uneasy. Some people, okay, it makes some people feel uneasy. The police do it too when they're interrogating people. Pay attention. So, and I learned this when I was in college for criminal justice, but nonetheless, and it actually works because I've tried it. I've actually done it. I'll tell you about that in a second. But so you walk over and you're leaning over this person while they're sitting there and you're asking them something, making a command or a demand from them, a request that you know they don't want to do. And for some reason, some people will feel compelled to comply. It literally works. Let me tell you how I know it works. So I had this professor when I was in college, Miss Harris. That was her name. She was the chairperson of the criminal justice department, but prior to that, she was my professor. And I didn't care for this woman because when she first came from Seattle to teach at the college, she didn't have a babysitter. So she would bring her son, who was like a year old, to class with her. Me being the nice person that I am, when I'd be done with her class and she had the next class, I would volunteer to watch her son and take him to the library with me because I would always go to the library to study and to do my homework so I didn't have to do it at home. But nonetheless, that's what I would do for her, just being nice. But this lady, she didn't really care for me for whatever reason. I think she was just a hater, but nonetheless. So she gave me a grade that I didn't appreciate one day. She gave me a 94. Now, you may be saying a 94, that's an A. Yeah, well, it is an A. But first of all, here's the problem I had with it. And here's why I had a problem. Because there was an assignment. It was a project that we all had a week to do. And it was supposed to be turned in a week later on a Thursday. That Thursday, it was pouring down, raining cats and dogs. I wasn't feeling well. I had a headache. But I said, I'm going to class because I don't want to miss anything. And also because the project is due. So I went to class, turned in the paper. Do you know no one else that came to class that day turned in that project because it was very hard? And everyone was saying, oh, Miss Harris, Professor Harris, can we please have extra time? Can you give us more time? And she said, okay, I'm going to give you guys until next week to turn it in. You can turn it in on Monday. Wow, really? Okay, interesting. If I had known that, I could have stayed at home. But nonetheless, what happens was after she hands out the grades, she gives me a 94. So I'm looking at my paper, and it was just a 3-page paper, but it was really a lot of research to get it all together quite right. So I'm looking at the paper to see why I got a 94. Where's my other 6 points? And so there's nothing marked with an X. There's nothing that she's corrected. But what she did right on the cover page, she wrote typos and grammatical errors kept your grade down. So, of course, I'm looking for the typos and the grammatical errors that kept my grade down. And I didn't see any, nor did she point any out in my paper. So I said, okay, this bitch, this is what I'm thinking. This bitch is trying to play me. So I go to an English professor because Miss Harris taught criminal justice. Okay, so I go to this English professor and I show her the paper and I said, can you read over this, please? And Miss Eisenberg, I think that was her name. I said, could you please read over this and tell me if you see any grammatical errors or typos? She read over it twice and she said, I don't see anything wrong with this paper. She said, why did she give you a 94? This should be 100. I said, yeah, I agree. She said, well, if I were you, I'd go talk to her. I said, oh, don't worry. I'm absolutely going to talk to her. That's why I brought it to you first, so I know it's not just me. So I go back to Miss Harris. And Miss Harris is sitting in her office at this point. She's sitting in her office by herself, grading papers or whatever she's doing. And so I walk in and I say, Miss Harris, I need to talk to you about my grade. And she says, your grade? She was like, let me see your paper. And I handed it to her. She said, well, I gave you a 94. I said, yeah, you did. And I don't think I deserve a 94 because you said typos and grammatical errors kept my grade down. And I don't see any typos or grammatical errors. And neither did Miss Eisenberg. So where are those other 6 points? And then she says to me, well, you got the second highest grade in the class. The highest grade was only a 97. Now she really done struck my nerves. You know why she done struck my nerves? Anybody know why she struck my nerves when she said that? Somebody put it in the chat. I'm going to see if anybody knows why she struck my nerves when she said that. Say what now? She said, I got the second highest grade in the class because I got a 94, but somebody made a 97. Now, does anyone have a guess why that ticked me off even more so? Well, I'm so glad you asked. You see, because remember, I was the only one who turned the paper in on time. She gave everyone else a whole nother week. So you mean to tell me that I turned this paper in on time and somebody got a whole nother week and you're going to give them a higher grade than you gave me? And you don't have anything marked on here to show me as to why you gave me 94 out of 100. Okay, all right. So here's the thing. She's sitting down at her desk and I walk over and I'm hovering over her. And I'm purposely doing it to see if this tactic works. And I said, Miss Harris, I said, this is not going to work for me. I said, and I'm going to need you to point out the grammatical errors and typos that you claim are in that paper. Because that's what you wrote on my cover, on my title page. Now, I'm going to need you to point those out because I don't see them and neither did Miss Eisenberg, like I told you. So she's sitting there and she's looking and I can tell she's nervous because I'm letting her know my energy is giving her that I'm upset. Okay. Now, so with that all being said, she's looking over the paper and she's trying so desperately to find something because she knows there's nothing. She knows she got nothing. I know she got nothing. Miss Eisenberg knew she had nothing. So she's sitting there looking over the paper and I'm like, what's taking her so long? Finally, she comes up to, she finds the word professionalism. She said, oh, this is it right here. Now, mind you, the project was about terrorism and about how the police should deal with terrorism. So She picks out the word professionalism. She says, you shouldn't have used this word professionalism. I said, why not? She said, you should have used the word professional. And I said, really? I said, why would you say that? I said, let me just tell you why I chose the word professionalism rather than the word professional. Because here's the thing. My sentence read, when dealing with terrorism, the police should take a professionalism stance. That's what I said. Professionalism is a characteristic of being professional in your actions. A professional is a title, Miss Harris. Okay? Professor Harris, that's what I told her. Okay? Professional, that's a title. You can be a professional hairstylist, a professional teacher. Okay? That's just a title. Professionalism is a characteristic of that. So that's what I was saying. So I made all the sense that she didn't. But see, in her desperation to try to find a flaw so she could justify her BS, that's all she could come up with. So needless to say, she said, well, I'll give you a 97. How about that? And I said, no, you're not going to give me the same thing to somebody who turned their paper in a week later, guys. And especially when you can't point out anything that was wrong. I'm going to need all 3 other points. She didn't want to give me those points. But I kept standing there. And she was like, well, you can have a seat. I said, no, I don't want to have a seat. I want to stand right here. So finally she says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you 100 this time. Not this time. You're going to give me 100 every time I earn it. Please pay attention. All nefarious. All nefarious. Buckhorse DC said Miss Iceberg tried to sink the ship. Songwriter Sonny said, I got your country grammar. Okay. Now let me continue. So they present exaggerated scenarios that make you question yourself. Please pay attention. Exaggeration can be used literally by any manipulator to get the reaction they want. They exaggerate their experiences or the wrongs that others have done to them. They exaggerate their levels of need for something and exaggerate. Yeah, this is what they do. They exaggerate how unreasonable you'd be if you reject them. Now, a therapist by the name of Cherie Steins, whose field of work specializes in toxic relationships and abuse, says that this is called gaslighting. It's a form of manipulation that seeks to make you question your thoughts, reality, or memory all at once. In short, it can make you feel like you're going crazy. Before you begin to question yourself, put on some positive thinking and then take a pause. Contextualize what's happening and ask yourself if it's really what they say it is. Now, according to Nye, the best way to reject such exaggeration is by asking for evidence or proof, like I did, Miss Harris, okay? If that's too direct an approach for you, you can stick to the facts instead, consistently redirecting to reality. So to be clear about the situation at hand, especially if you're explaining how a manipulator is hurting you, and you're telling them about it, what they're doing, don't bother over explaining to a manipulator who is hell bent on misunderstanding you or playing the victim. Okay, do provide examples of the manipulator's behaviors towards you. Don't feel the need to demand answers from a manipulator for the reason behind their actions. Do stick to your main point. Don't let yourself be swayed by moving the goalpost. This is what the American Board of Professional Psychology certified psychologist Lauren Suero, PhD, says. Don't make further excuses for the manipulator who can't deliver on your basic requests and boundaries. And don't expect these kinds of discussions to be draining. Do expect these kinds of discussions to be draining and tiring. So don't feel obligated to perform them. The third thing is they make you feel guilty. Oh, that's clearly a tactic. Manipulators love to make other people feel guilty because it appeals to the natural empathy and kindness that most of the population shares. Steins refers to these kinds of manipulators as the victim. They act hurt and pretend to be severely affected by you and things around them. Even when they're usually the cause of the problem, they will act hurt. Now, when you don't agree to help a victim or this type of manipulator who's playing the victim, they'll usually play up their act even further, causing you to feel so guilty. You will then experience a sense of obligation that almost compels them to help you. But stop right there, okay? You need to understand being a manipulator is what they do best. They're clever and crafty, okay? Like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, they're wickedly wise. Okay, so you need to understand better what a manipulator is looking for in you so that you don't allow them to target you. They recognize that you feel inadequate and try to make you feel like you'd be more adequate if you help them. Often they try to avoid taking any blame by shifting it onto you so that you help them out of the situation they created. They know you're a people pleaser and will feel guilty if you don't satisfy them. So they ask you for unreasonable things while preying upon you and want you to just always say yes. Now, of course, you can also feel obligated to help people who aren't manipulators but are genuinely in need. How can you differentiate between them? Well, instead of surrendering to these feelings, Nye recommends taking a little moment of self-reflection, making better decisions. And then ask yourself, is what is being asked for or of me reasonable? Do I feel positive about my relationship with this person? Is this person treating me with genuine respect? Are the expectations being placed on me achievable? Is my relationship with this person equal parts give and take? Or am I always doing the giving? And the fourth thing is, they get a foot in the door first. You see, manipulators are notoriously charming, and this charm fuels most of their tactics, according to studies. Now, you might think that you're giving them a kind of shot at being nice and a kind of opening the door just a little for them to state their case before deciding if it's reasonable or not. Unfortunately, with the charm they have, just that little gap in the door is all that the manipulator needs. Okay? Now, researcher Jay Olson says, whose area of study focuses on manipulation specifically, states that one of the most common manipulation tactics used by manipulators is the foot in the door method. Okay, essentially, it involves beginning with a request that sounds extremely reasonable, then slowly and gradually escalating it into one that you don't want to pay attention to, or something that you don't want to do, but you don't even really notice it right away because they just slide it on in. They basically blindside you. And even if you do notice, you might be in too deep to say no at this point. Please pay attention. So with that all being said, the last thing is they act like an expert. Manipulators have to sound like they know what they're talking about to get the results that they want. Unfortunately for them, however, most of them don't. Okay? They don't know what they're talking about. So they have to convince you to look at them in a positive light. And they achieve this by talking up their experience and referencing your lack of it, telling you what you don't know, okay, and how you don't have any experience. Okay, even if that condensation isn't rooted in fact, they'll tell you these things. Drawing arbitrary connections between things you know that they've done and the knowledge they claim to have, even though those connections don't necessarily really even exist. Speaking in lengthy monologues that don't allow you to get a word in, avoiding having to answer any questions that might reveal their lack of expertise. Basically pretending they know everything. Okay, I know I don't know everything and I don't have any problem asking questions. But these manipulators, well, they want to act like they know everything. And even if you know that something they said is wrong, they'll just double down on it 9 times out of 10. Masking details and being general to disguise any shaky logic or half-truths. Engaging in intellectual bullying, according to Nye, where they act like you're less intelligent because you don't see the truth in what they're saying. And then slowing down to condescend to you that you need things dumbed down for you, like you're just not that smart. So I have to explain it to you like you're literally 3 years old. Dismissing questions by saying that it's too complicated to explain to someone who doesn't have the general background that they have. And to counteract this, just focus on the facts. As they speak, link their words to what you know is true in your head, and you'll see the discrepancy fairly quickly. Okay, don't be afraid to say you're going to ask for a second opinion or bring others to listen in on it. All right? But please pay attention. Bug Horse DC said, I can't stand them fakers. I can't either. Stacy says, if I see someone is a manipulator, I distance myself from them. I don't have time for the BS. Exactly. Okay, like sit down somewhere. Nobody has time for that. So with that all being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Listen, I was going to have the trivia today, but I'm not going to have it. I don't have time. And so I'll probably have it tomorrow afternoon, sometime between 12 and 1, okay? But I didn't have time for it today, beloved, so I'll go live on here tomorrow, likely, and then I'll have the trivia. With that all being said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of this lovely day. Enjoy your strong end out the weekend, leaving you in a weekend state of mind. And don't forget that there's a broadcast premiering on the backup channel, Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, the Queen Ahmadiyyah TV show at 5 o'clock. Okay, that's in like 20 minutes. And so until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.